Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Q&A session. I will be taking you on to Q&A class for tonight. Yeah. So my slide here, we are going to be talking about feature file, and also I'm going to be teaching you how it's done on Visual Studio. We are going to create a feature file, page object, step definition. We are going to run our test. As we go along in this training, we might be having more session because tonight is just the basic one to start with. Then after tonight class, we might be having subsequent sessions so that we can improve more with our automation, because there's a lot to learn when it comes to automation testing. So you can see on my screen, we have the behavior-driven development, which says the BDD uses the human readable description as the basis for the software test. And we have something called the feature file, which is an explicit title. And we have description. When you have a feature, you always have a description, a short introduction to the section with the following structure. When the BA writes requirement, we expect the BA to write the user story. And also, if we are testing, we want to test based on our acceptance criteria. So when you're writing your automation as well, you need to be descriptive as well in your feature file, so that if any stakeholder is going through your framework, they are able to read it. And sometimes in the interview, they ask you, why do you use BDD? These are the examples you can give to say it's written in English, and is any stakeholder reading that particular framework can understand what you're doing. Okay, so as the person or the role who will benefit from the feature, I want the feature so that the benefit or the value of the feature. Then we have what we call the given when then. And the given is we call it the precondition. If you want to call it in a simple layman language, you can just say your given is a precondition, your when is your action, your then is your assertion. But in my slide here, I have that the given is the initial context at the beginning of your scenario in one or more clauses. And also we have the when, the event that triggers the scenario. Then the then is the expected outcome in one or more clauses, because as you write your scenarios, you need to start with the given, because you need to let us know what you're about to do, because for every acceptance criteria, there must be where you start testing from. And also you need to perform an action, and you need to do the assertion as well to say that, yes, this is what is expected as it is written in the requirement. Also, we have keywords. In each line that isn't a blank line has to start with a getting keyword. When you create a feature file or you create a project and you have this by default, the calculation default feature, when you open it, you have this get keyword that is written there just for us to see that, okay, this is how the feature file is going to be written, so that and that is one of the good things about SpecFlow as well, because it makes everything easy and readable for you to use. And we have the primary keyword, which is the feature. We have the given when then, and also we have the subset when we want to use and as well, and also but. We have background. Background is when we have a repeated steps in all our scenario. We don't want to keep writing the same scenario. We don't want to keep repeating it. So we just put background so that those repeated steps in our scenario is covered with background. Then the subsequent one, we can just put it in our scenarios as well. As we go on with this training, we might be touching background, but tonight I wouldn't want to start with background. I want you to understand the basics first. Then in the next class, we might be looking at background, we might be looking at examples, we might be looking at more of the, let's say, data-driven development as well. We also have scenario outline. This is when we want to use examples. When you're using example, you need to put a scenario outline, and you can also see it in the template as well. There are a few secondary keywords like the strings. The first one here is when you have like you're writing your feature, what you're meant to see, there is a text on that page, for instance. Where I work, one of the features that we worked on is when you upload a particular document, what you should see there is you will see some like 2 lines or 2 paragraph text that talks about what the customer is meant to see. If the upload is successful, they move to the next stage. If it's not successful, it will prompt them to reload their document again. So you use this dot string to put your text there, because you will be using it, but tonight we might not use it because, like I said, we will start from basic. And also we have these data tables. Anytime you want to do your tables, you need to use this particular one. It's on your keyboard. You just need to press the shift, and the front of the shift you see like one straight line. You just press the 2 together. As you go along the class, I might be teaching you more of this. Also, we also tag as well. In our feature file, we tag when you're in a big workplace and you're giving automation testing to do. You need to tag, for instance, you can tag by the requirement number. I do tag by requirement number. So if I'm testing a user story that says 3030, so when I'm doing my automation in my framework, I just tag it by work item. Because if you tag it by work item, or you tag it, sometimes you can tag it if you want to run it in pipeline. You can tag pipeline if you want to do regression testing. If you want to type it by saying, okay, this should be a regression, this should be smoke. We just use tag so that it's much more easy. And sometimes if you have up to 160 tests in your Visual Studio framework, and you need one particular one to run, which is failing, because you have a tag. There's something in the Visual Studio I might show you. You just need to go to traits and filter that particular work item. With the tag, you're able to see it. But if you do not tag it and you just use it just like that, and you don't put anything like work item, or you don't tag it properly, it might keep running, and you might not understand what this system is doing at that time. But you need to tag it so that you'll be able to locate that particular work item. Also, we also have something like the hash. The hash is used in the only in the feature. You cannot use it anywhere else. You have to use it with your feature file. That is the only time you use your hash. Let's say, for instance, you have your feature written and you don't, that particular line of text, you don't want to run it, or it's failing, or the locator is not locating it, and you want to like comment it out, you can just use this hash. This is when you use hash. You cannot use it in your page object. You can use it in your step definition. If you want to use something like that in your page object, you just have to put 2/. And also, if you want to use it in your step definition, you have to use 2/. So also, we have the comments are only permitted at the start of the line, exactly, because you will only put it at the start. You don't want to put it at the end, because you need to tell the Visual Studio Code to say that, oh, can you comment this out for me? So it's either you go on your tab at the top of your visual framework, you will see that particular thing that says comments. If you don't want to click on it, you can just use the hash, and it just does the job for you. And also, we can use it to block comments. Currently not supported by Jenkins, which is fine. And sometimes when you're doing a work and you've not completed that particular work, let's say, for instance, one of you get a job now, you're just learning Visual Studio, and you're meant to automate, and that particular test is failing, maybe there's a bug, and you are like 4 QAs working on that story. What you need to do is just to put a comment in the, you might put that comment with hash in your scenario test to say that, oh, this test is going to be rerun once the bug is fixed. Because with that, because when you push that particular work to the repo, and I as a QA working with you, and I have that particular work on my framework, I could understand that, oh, you're still working on that particular test. So it's kind of more it is a way of communicating with other stakeholder using that particular framework as well, other tester using that particular framework to say that this is what you're doing, and this is what you'll be doing when the bug is fixed. Yes, we have the test is for the Okay, this test is for login covering both valid and invalid. I will be showing you this because the particular test we'll be doing the valid one and we'll also be doing invalid one tonight. So when you have that valid one, you can when you create a feature file, you automatically have this feature written by default in your feature file, and you can put login, and also you need to put a description like we don't want to test a requirement that don't tell us the user journey, the user story. You don't want to test any requirement that doesn't have a user story. So if we can test a requirement from the BE that doesn't have a user story, then we have to put that in our framework as well, because we want to make sure that anybody reading our framework kind of understand what we are meant to do. So we need to put as a user, because this is exactly as it is for user story for the BA as well. It also applies to the tester as well. You need to start with A, which is AS. As a user of Gate I want to log into Gate so that that should be mentioned as well in your framework. Then you can carry on adding additional text to that particular descriptive message. And also you have your scenario, the scenario. What is your scenario? What are you meant to do? What are you testing? Okay, I want to have a valid login. You put there valid login so that everybody understands what you're doing, because I cannot be working with you and I don't understand your framework if I definitely have the updated test on my framework. So I need to know what you're trying to test. So I've written valid login, and you can see we have to use the given. You can see given I open a browser, and we have this subset of and navigate to giftread.com. This is if I go to the step definition of this, you also see that this and will still be given, because it's just a subset. It's just to tell you that you want to do particular thing on the browser, which is given I open a browser and I navigate to giftread.com and I click on login. When I log in, because you're performing that particular action, then you are now clicking on the login, either by login button or whichever thing the developer have put. It might be a menu, it might be a button, it might be a call to action button as well. So you're clicking on it, then I am logging, because then I am logging. You want to assert that yes, you're able to log in. If you're not able to log in, that means there is a particular bug. It might be from your locator is not seeing that particular element on that page, or it might be that something is broken, or it might be that you need to raise a bug for that to be fixed. We have the indentation, either space or tab may be used for indentation. Yeah, the recommended indentation level is 2 spaces so that your feature is easy to read. This particular one, you need to be careful, because when you're using your framework, you need to be careful with the code as well. You don't put too much space. You don't, especially when you have these file uploads and you want your file uploader helper to help you to read that particular CSV file. And you've gone to the class where you have to put all your case and everything about your file to upload. And for instance, you now mistakenly put a space. You will see that when you run that particular test, it's going to fail, or it's going to say it's empty. The reason why it will tell you it's empty because it cannot read that particular file. And sometimes it happens when you're new, and if you get a job as a tester now, you might not know 1 or 2 reasons that your test is failing. And those are the things I also learned as well, because when I joined a company and I realized my test was failing, I didn't know that I had a space to my CSV file. So, and I was sure that this is what happened. So with that, I was able to know that, oh, this is why my test is failing. You will also experience that as a tester. And with that, you improve more. So we have example. This is another example given to us to say that as a user of GiftRate, I want to log into GiftRate so that I can join Blue Sky community. Yeah, this is the journey. This is the user journey. You're telling a descriptive message here. And the first example has 3 steps to say that given I am a GiftRate user, when I log into GiftRate, then I'm logged in. That's one of our features. So the purpose of the feature keyword is to provide high-level description of a software feature and to group related scenario. The first primary keyword in a Gherkin document must always be feature, followed by a, which is the as a user, and a short text that describes the feature as well. You can add some text underneath the feature as description. You can also do that. I will be showing you that tonight. The description for feature, the description is optional. I have no special meaning to Cucumber. The description lines are ignored by Cucumber at runtime, but are available for reporting. The purpose is to document important aspects of the feature, such as brief explanation and a list of business rules. This is just to tell us a brief description why we need that description for features. And it also says that you can write anything you like as long as no line starts with a keyword. So you need to be careful when you're doing your automation. You need to be careful because anything you put on your framework can trigger. And sometimes some people just put a comma by mistake without knowing. And before you see it on your framework, you might be seeing 99 errors. And if you're not a good tester, you might not be able to fix that because you will be thinking, where is this error coming from? And some people just have to, I know of many people that have had to uninstall their Visual Studio just because of an error and clone that particular framework back. And when they still have this particular error again, what they do is instead of them to look for a way to resolve it, they kind of, delete that particular framework from their from where they store it in their file explorer, also clone it back. To me, I don't think the person have to do that, but because you're learning, these are the things you have to pay attention to and be able to fix. We also have another one here, which is talking about what I've said. I'll just carry on so that's, we have the given. This is talking about the given step I used to describe the initial contents of the system. The purpose of given step is to put the system in a known state before the user starts interacting with the system. And in the when steps, given will be your precondition, which is what I've said. It is okay to have several given steps. Yes, we can have several given steps. Use and or but for number 2, which you can see in one of the slides I showed, we have this to use and because it's just a subset of that given, and you will see it until when you put when in your step, that is when it will change. The more you put and, if you go to your step definition, you see that it will be a given in your step definition. So when you now put the and, which is telling this the code that you want to perform an action, then it changes. And from the and as well, if you put and underneath the when, these things I will be showing you tonight. We have this example as well. Just go past it because it's also saying the same thing. This slide is telling you how you can write your feature file. Then we have the when. The when are used to describe an event or an action, which I've just said to you. This can be a person interacting with the system, or it can be an event trigger by another system because you are performing an action. You want to click on login button. You want it to perform an action. That is when you use when. Also, we have the example of when I click on sign in and I enter email address, it's still when. And I enter password, you're performing an action, it is a when. Okay, so I will just move. Then this is the then. This then steps are used to describe an expected outcome or result. An outcome should be on an observable output. So this is just our output. This is just to say we want to assert that particular output, because when you're testing a requirement, you need to give to the stakeholder that this particular test is passing. Until when you reach your then, that is when you know that, yes, you've completed your testing. If your test is failing in when, you cannot say you've completed that testing there. If you have that particular, you will also see that some BAs give you the Gherkins, they write the acceptance criteria in Gherkin instance, which make it more easier for the tester testing it just to duplicate what they've done. But as a tester, please do not copy what the BA has written. Try to okay, how can I write this step in my own QA? because I know some testers, I know you're learning, but what in my observation is that you copy from what the BA has written. Don't forget that the BA is also learning as well. They might have put so many stories in their Gherkins, but you cannot be automating that story. You need to write it in a professional way as a tester does, which is the given and the when and the then in the right way to do it, so that you can locate that particular element or that statement. We have this example as well of then the user is logged in, yep, and the name of the user is displayed. This is where we now need to assert to say that it's displayed. This, you can remember when we are doing our framework installation, when we are creating our project, we decided to go with SpecFlow plus SpecRun. But by the time we get to this assertion, we might need to install NUnit, because if you don't install NUnit, you won't be able to assert. You won't be able to use it. Though we have the Flint assertion, but we need to support it by installing the package, which is the NUnit, so that we'll be able to assert is that particular text is displayed on the page. But if you have successive given, when, or then, you could write. Okay, this is another example as well. I will just scroll past. Then the user is logged in and the name of the user is displayed, but the user cannot see other user details. These are the things we do as tester, because we have a requirement to test. We have releases. We have stakeholder waiting for us to say that, oh, what test have we completed? Because when you start working, you might be testing on different environments. You might start with dev environment, move to QA, depending on how your organization wants you to test as a tester. You might have a pre-prod, you might have a production environment. So you need to do all of this to make sure that, yes, what you're testing is as expected from what the requirement says. We have background. Yeah, this is background. Like I said, I won't start with background tonight. Maybe in another class, we will be looking at background. I'll just start with the basic. With the basic that I'm going to teach tonight, I believe you all should understand it. Then the next class, we will look for a test to use the background, so you understand what background really means. A background is a place before the first scenario. The scenario outline at the same level of indentation. Occasionally, you will find yourself repeating, yeah, just like I said, when you're repeating steps, you don't want to keep repeating steps, because sometimes the steps are just too long. You might, in a feature file, it's possible for you to have like 30 scenarios. And in that 30 scenarios, you have like 10 steps which are repeated. You don't want to keep writing the same thing over and over again. But if you put that 10 steps in your as a background, it kind of run your test, because obviously SpecFlow is very good, because all of this is part of what you've installed in your package, to say that when you use background, it allows you to use it. So if you don't do your installation very well, you might not be able to use this particular background. So that is why it's very good when you're doing your installation, you make sure that SpecFlow is installed properly, so that you'll be able to use your feature file as you want it. We have this example here as well. The feature is logging. We have the descriptive text here to say that as a user of GiftTrade, I want to log into GiftTrade so that I can join Blue Sky community on GiftTrade. We have the first example as two-step. Because when you're doing your testing, you're writing your test cases. For manual part, you'll be writing your test cases. For automation, you want to write all these test scripts. And you need to, it's not everything you write as test case you automate, because those are the interview questions we have to say that what test do you automate? What test do you do not have to automate? So these are the things you do. So you're testing a login. You want to test a valid one. For invalid one, you want to put invalid login details to see if you'll be able to log in or if you will not be able to log in. Also, you want to put invalid password as well, because these three can cover your login. And once these three are passing, that means that functionality which the developer have developed is actually working as expected. We have another example. We can see in this slide, we are seeing a lot of examples to know how to write a feature file. So this is another one. Given I open a browser and I navigate to gfree.com. This particular one is a background. This is talking about a background because we need these 3 steps to be able to do valid login, and invalid password. So this particular one example is talking about when we use background, because we cannot put these 3 steps to join this. We can also put it here. We cannot put it here. We need to have a background so that we have all our repeated steps in one place. Then the parameterization, we pass value to steps, database table as well. Talk about scenario outline and examples, because when you use a parameter, you want to pass value to your steps to say that here, and I enter my first name, you put a parameter, your name, you can call your name Bola, and I enter my last name, you put a parameter, you can call your last name Tester. Yeah, because you want to pass that value, and when you do your page object, you also string it, because that particular value, you have to string it, and you also use that string in your step definition as well, so that it's going to send the keys for that particular value, because the send key that you use in your page object, you want it to send it to that environment when it is running that test. We have passing value to steps here. You can pass value to step using the codes here. This is it. So if you can use this code to pass value to steps. You notice that most of our step definition, you use double quotes. The reason why we use double quotes in our step definition is that we want to pass that particular value. You can't use this double quote in our feature file. I don't think it will let you. You only use one quote for feature file, or you use the greater than or less than to pass that parameter in your feature file. But when it comes to your step definition, you know, in the code, it will only accept these 2 codes to say that, yes, you want to pass that value. And here, this is an example. And I enter, okay, you can use the 2 codes because the example is also saying that, and I enter the test at yahoo.com, and I enter the password. You can use this as well. Pardon me. We have the data tables. We have the data tables. For data tables, this is it. When you have your, like I said, in more of the classes we have an example whereby we use this data table to say that, given I open a browser and I navigate to GitHub and I click on login, when I click on signing and I enter email address, you put that in a table, and I enter password, you can also put that in a table. You're still writing your feature steps. So you can put as many tables as you like in your steps, and it's going to run as long as you're doing it the right way. And this is another one again, because this one is being splitted. This is another one again, to say that you want to pass these 2 tables in your steps as well. And I enter the email address and password. You put your email address here, you put your password here. And when you do your step definition, you need to put the 2, you need to put the 2 code in your step definition for this, so that it recognize that you want to put your email and you want to put your password. Then the user is logged in results. Yeah. We have the scenario outline. The scenario outline keyword can be used to run the same scenario multiple times. Like I said, we may collapse these 2 similar scenarios into scenario outline. Scenario outline allow us to more concise express these scenarios through the use of templates. We have this sign, because we want to use examples. We can use this in the greater than or less than, which is the delete parameters. A scenario outline must contain an example section, because you cannot use this without having an example. You definitely have to have an example, because you're saying that you want to use a scenario outline for that particular test script. So the scenario outline is run once for each row in the example section beneath it, not counting the first header row. This we will learn as we go along in the training. Yeah, you can see, because we are using this particular what is it called? We are using the particular demerit parameter. So we have to use our examples and which we are going to be trained. So don't worry, this will be taught. This is an example. You have to put example, you have to put email address, password, result. You put as many email address, you put as many password you want to put, and also put the result, whether you want to say successful, unsuccessful, unsuccessful, unsuccessful. The more you do automation, you learn more and more examples, because there are some examples that are kind of different. This is just the basic one. So once you know the basic one, you should be able to do the harder part as well, because the more you do your testing, you understand that there are some tests you have to put them in. You have to put examples there for them. It might not be result. It might be that, for instance, one of my test scenario at work, if I upload and I want to make sure the file upload is in the database. So in one of my steps here, I might put that and the file successfully upload, that particular file name, the data file, it might be the as we've put here email address, it might be the data that I will put. Then I will put file entry, and the file entry, it might be that the second one for my example is a file entry, because that particular file I'm putting, uploading, I need to put it in. I need to put it as my example here. Then sometimes I need to put my result as well, because I need to know if that particular file I'm uploading is going to generate an error for me. What is that error message in the database, which is the SQL Server? You need to put it here, so that when you're doing your testing, you need to write a code so that it goes to the database, and it automatically kind of see everything you put, because in the SQL you have tables, and in those tables you need to put it in your examples that these are the things in your SQL server as well, in the tables as well, which you are automating. So don't worry, don't be scared. This is just the beginning. We have data table and handy for passing a list of value to a step definition. Here you can see, given the following user exists. Yes. Name, email, Twitter, all of these. Yep. Just like the docstring, the data table would be passed to the step definition as the last argument. Yep. This is also talking about what I've been saying, and we have the Cucumber provide a rich API for manipulating tables from within step definition. See the data table API reference for more details. Yeah, we have this particular one to say that we have the background here. We have the scenario, which is the valid login. We also have the invalid login. We have the invalid password. Okay, this one is talking about automating end-to-end tests. We have our description. The purpose of this feature is to test. And sometimes this description, you can put it as a rule, because with SpecFlow, you can have a rule, and that rule, you can put it in your feature file, and that rule which talks about what that particular test you're testing, what rule guide that particular testing you're doing. Sometimes the rule can be user is able to see the login button. It might be the rule. Then you're testing that user can click on login button, because you can put in your scenario outline to say user can click on login button. That can be your title. And when you write your steps, the more you go with your steps, you might need a time whereby you have to put the demerit parameter here, which is what is in this particular example that is being shown. We have given user is on home page. When he search for dress and choose to buy the first item, and move to checkout from mini cart and enter customer personal details on checkout page. This is the demerit parameter as well, because we want to put, because it might be a lot of more customers. It might be that particular acceptance criteria is saying that you should test as many customers. You might have a data for that to say that, oh, John is going to be buying that particular item, and you want to automate that particular test for John. You need to put it there. Like you can see in our example, we have for customer, we have for lecture. We can have as many because once you've given it here, you also always run, when it gets to this particular place, you pick customer because you already code it. And you also, if you run it again, because when you want to run this particular test, if you over your test explorer on this test, you will see that you put it then in variant. You can say that this particular one is variant 0. And the reason why it says variant 0, because this example has the same scenario outline title. So because it has the same scenario outline title, it might be that the more you put this example, you can put like 10 columns. Yeah, if you put 10 columns and you want to run only this late shape, though the first one is going to be 0 variant, because when you over it in the test explorer, you will see this title and it will say variant 0. That is to say that it's going to run this particular one. And if you say variant 1, that means it's going to run this particular one. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you anybody can get a job now, and so that you kind of flow with what we are teaching, and you know that, yeah, I have been taught in Blue Sky. So this is parameterizing without example. Yes, you can do that as well. We say the feature is login action. The scenario is successful login with valid credential. This is giving user is on home page when user navigate to login page and user enter. Yes, because this is when we use the 2 codes. You can remember when I said when you use the delimit parameter, you have to put the greater than or less than. Anytime you put that, just make sure that you put example. You're telling anybody reading your test to say that you want to use scenario outline. But when you use these 2 codes, you're only giving it a parameter, but you're not putting it. You are not adding example to it because you have not used that delimit parameter in your steps. So now you put your enter test user 1 and test at 1, 2, 3, then message display login. Yeah, that's it. So we have another one here to say reset functionality on login page of application. You can see we have the delimit parameter here. So once you have a delimit parameter, please make sure you finish it up by adding your examples, because without putting this example, the test will not even run or pass, because it will be telling you it's expecting this particular example, because you're telling your code that once you use this delimit parameter, you have to add example. If not, you won't be able to run that particular test. But if you don't use the delimit parameter, you don't have to put examples. You will only pass the value in your step definition to say that, yes, can you please pass this value for me when you're running my test. I think that is it. I will now pass to Rookie. Rookie, please. Rookie is going to talk about Locator. And when it's done, I will come back online. Then we can talk more about the training tonight, and also do some tests for us. We're going to touch on the feature file, touch on page object, step definition, yeah, and we'll make sure we do the valid one and invalid one for tonight. And the assignment will be for you to replicate what I've done, and let's see how it goes. So I will be passing to Ruke, please.
Oh, okay. Good evening.